Syr Crypt, like, I have lore. I've created lore for this whole persona that I keep up for myself. I'm a skeleton. But I wasn't a skeleton before. It wasn't always a skeleton. I used to be alive, and then by some other miraculous mean, after I died by a backstabbing, I came back to life as a skeleton in a shallow grave, which means I haven't been dead long enough for there to be a legitimate grave, but I also don't have any flesh on my bones, meaning it should have been long enough for all the flesh to decay. So that's basically where the mystery of the lore comes into play, and that's the whole premise of the mystery behind. The whole lore behind this is I created lore because of this persona. Like, that was the whole point. I wanted something that had a resemblance with death and decay and such, and I wanted it to be something so that, like, talking and dealing with death and all the horrific stuff and all that was like something a little more appropriate to the character, to like who I was. Like, basically, to really understand whenever I'm streaming and stuff, whenever I'm streaming, for the most part, unless I'm speaking like about the lore or something, I'm usually just talking as myself, which is not quite Syr Crypt, but, you know, obviously taking Syr Crypt as the name. So that usually how I act is usually how I would act. But when I'm in like a video, or like I'm talking about lore or something, or describing something as Syr Crypt, I may come off a lot differently. And that's because of the character I built for Syr Crypt. Syr Crypt is a apathetic, basically he has no empathy towards things. Literally, because of the fact he can't die, doesn't give much care for death. He's also a skeleton. He's beyond the grave, so since he's beyond the grave, he just kind of, he's like, all right, whatever. He was a hitman. When he was alive, he was a hitman. So, going by the name of Morris Horde. Within his line of work, he was really well known. He was really well established, to the point that he had the nickname Deathwalker. Like, I mean, it's kind of a big deal if you're called Deathwalker and you're a hitman, you know? Kind of like the name you don't want to hear. It's like, oh, Deathwalker's after you. You know, you don't want to hear that. You don't want to hear that. So, what happened, he got backstabbed, and he knew it. He knew he was going to get stabbed. If anything, he was going to react to it, but he decided last second not to, and to go along with it. Either way, he killed his killer. He killed him. Like, after getting stabbed, he turned around. After getting stabbed, he turned around and just ran towards the guy, pinned him, took his own knife, and stabbed him, or more disemboweled him with it. Then afterwards, stabbed his face, thus killing him. But due to blood loss, he basically ended up falling unconscious. He actually intentionally aimed the knife towards his heart so that he would land on it. Like, he was fully prepared to die. He was definitely prepared to. He was not expecting a second chance. That's the thing he didn't quite understand. And because of that, he just kind of took it as just like alright, I'll continue with what I did, you know? So, he basically is like a self-employed hitman of sorts. Basically, if he has a vendetta towards someone, he has no care to take them out. Which is what fits his character in the way that I literally, I act him out, in the sense that he doesn't care for most life. He doesn't give a crap about it. Most times, if he acts like he cares, it's usually up for a facade, just to appease the emotions of someone, usually. I myself am not like that, per se. Like, I have some very, like, dark tendencies and such in terms of humor, or other things like that. But I myself do care about others' lives and such like that. But we're talking about a skeleton here who's already died, and he can't die, so he can't die again, like just keep coming back to life in this crypt he's established. So with that mentality, he just like, well, okay, I guess, whatever. So he just doesn't care. That's the whole idea about it. So whenever I act as Syr Crypt and stuff, he's just a very uncaring person. He's someone who enjoys the suffering of others, really, just for the sake of, if it's in the sense of a vendetta or something. Like, he doesn't just go around mass murdering or anything like that. That's not something he does. But if you're on his bad side, you know, if he's coming after you, there's got to be a particular reason why. Basically, he was part of a organization, have been in a constant quarrel with a direct rival, and that person who stabbed him was a very highly trained person on the other side. Which, basically, it was just a one-against-one way that they both ended up dying from it, except he came back to life from it. That guy who stabbed him was called the Lurker. That was his little name, his little hitman identification. If any of you have actually seen some of the videos I do, I believe it's the second video of RLCraft, I talk about the Lurker, but I refer to it as if it's like a first name, like a pronoun, you know? So that was why, because the Lurker was an important thing, and that thing was pretty much hunting me the whole time. So they're in constant hunting to each other. And that was the whole gist that I wanted to get off of. And that's basically who Syr Crypt is. Well, that's the whole gist. I hope you liked it.